Hey everybody, Brad Greenfield here again for some more Excel 2013 training, and in this video we're going to be covering some very simple formulas, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, describing some order of operation, and then how we can drag those formulas to adjacent cells to keep us from having to re-enter things. And what we have here, we're just starting off with a very basic plain Excel spreadsheet where I've got some made up project group numbers for the different years, and we're just going to go through and finish filling this out. So as I start here in cell B3 and enter some numbers, to get across the spreadsheet I'm going to use the tab button. So that will allow me to keep both of my hands on the keyboard as I'm going across and typing these numbers in. Very quick and efficient way to do that. Now when I get to the end here, I need to start entering the 2014. So an easy way to do that without taking your hands off the keyboard would be to hit the enter key. And when I hit the enter key, since I started here in the row before it and went all the way to the end, when I hit the enter key, it's going to recognize that that's where I want to start entering data again. Okay, so I can just go across here and tab again and hit some enter some information and get all the way to the end. Now if I wanted to go back, I could hit the shift tab button to move back across my spreadsheet. So that's a couple ways that you could do that. So we'll get into the formulas now. So let's say that here at the end of the this data set we need to have some totals. So I'll just type in total. And now what we want to do is we want to add this information up so that we can get some totals in here. And you know, it makes sense to add this, and some of the other formulas we're going to do may not make much sense, but I just want to show you how to do those. So, but for this will definitely make sense to add this information to see kind of where we are as far as totals for these 3 years. So with a small data set, you know, you may find it easier to just add these up if you wanted to, but we're going to enter a formula here that will make it a lot easier for us. So there's a couple different ways that I can do that. Or there's a couple different ways that you could do that, but I'm going to show you just the easiest way, what I find to be the easiest way to do that when we're adding. So when we're adding, if I just start typing here in the cell B5 equals, and when I hit the equals sign in a cell inside of Excel, it's going to recognize that I'm wanting to do a formula. So if I click outside now, we can see the marching ants, and Excel understands that I'm wanting to do a formula and I'm wanting to start with cell B3. It's not exactly what I want to do, but you may find as you enter, as you press the enter key into a cell, if you accidentally hit somewhere, you may find it frustrating as to why it's doing that. But the enter key, or the equals key or equals symbol here lets Excel know that we're going to try to do a formula now. So I'll just click in here and get rid of all that. So when we're adding, I will start with the equals and then type in the word sum, S-U-M. And then I'm going to open parentheses. Now I'm opening parentheses because I'm going to do this entire row. And again, this is a small data set. If we had a long range data set, this would make a lot more sense to do it this way. Just to show you here, if I wanted to just do a simple adding 2 cells, I could click on cell B2 and then hit shift and enter the plus key there and add that to cell B3 and hit enter, and that's going to give me a total there. But since I'm wanting to add this entire row up, I'm going to undo or double click inside this cell so that I can see my formula, and I'm going to back out of this, and again just type in the word sum, open parentheses, drag this down, and what that's doing, that's letting Excel know that I want to add all of this information together. And if I close parentheses and then hit enter, then I get that total for that cell, or that total for that column. Now this is not, it's adding these numbers, but it's really just adding the contents of these cells. So if I went into cell B3 and I changed that 24 to a 22, then that's going to adjust our addition and change this to a 100. So if I hit enter after that, then we can see that that auto adjusts. So that's a neat way to keep kind of a running tab on what's going on there. Now I want to do the same thing all the way across the board, so I could, or all the way across the data set. So I could start off in cell C5 and do enter, sum, open parentheses, and do the same thing that I did before by dragging those down and closing the parentheses. That would obviously work. If I press enter, then I get a sum total there. But you don't want to do that all the way across the board. An easier way to do that is to start off here where we entered our first formula. Mouse over the bottom right corner of that cell, do a left click, and then drag across. When we do that, it automatically adjusts each formula to recognize what column we're in. So we can see here our first formula that we entered. Let me get out of that. I messed up there. So we can see here in the first formula that we entered, we did B2 through B4. Okay, that worked good. Now when we just drag that cell across to copy those formulas in, we can see here that it's automatically adjusting to the column for us. So that's a really easy way to go about adding some information. You can see how sometimes if you're inside a cell that has a formula, if you accidentally click out of it, it can cause some errors there. So be careful when you're doing that. But that's an easy way to drag that formula across and have it apply to all the different rows. So again, for this data set, we don't really have any reason that we want to multiply any of this stuff. So we're just going to show you some multiplication. So actually, I'll show you some subtract first. So to subtract, we're going to do basically the same thing, example I showed you earlier, equals, and we're going to pick the two cells that we want to subtract from. So let's say that we want to find out what the difference is between 2014 and 2013. So we could do an equals and then click on cell B4 and then do the minus symbol and click on cell B3 and hit enter, and that's going to give us the difference between 2014 and 2013. So as we drag that across, we can see here that we're going to come up with some negative numbers, and that's because the 2014 numbers were actually smaller than the 2013 numbers. So that's subtraction. Let's multiply. So when we're multiplying, it's again basically the same way. So I will hit the enter key and then I will select a cell. I'm just going to multiply cell B4. And to do multiply, we're going to use the asterisk. So that's going to be shift and then the 8 key to get us the asterisk. And I'm going to multiply B4 by B3 and hit enter. So that's an easy way that we can do some multiplication and dividing. And we could drag that across if we wanted to, and that's going to multiply all the C4 times C3, D4 times D3, and then E4 times E3. So to divide again, we'll do the equals symbol, and then we will select on a key or a cell, and then the divide is going to be the /. So we're going to divide cell B4 by cell B3, hit enter, and then we get a long decimal here. Now that's going to happen a lot of times when you do some division. So if you want to get that to an easier number to understand, I will click on that cell, do a right click, select format cells, and then I'm going to go to number and tell it that I don't want any decimal places. We can go all the way up to several decimal places, and we can see that it's actually showing us an example here of what our cell is going to look like. I'm going to drag that down. I'll just do 1 decimal place and click OK. So it automatically rounds, and then that's a way that we can divide. If I drag that across, then it's going to hold that formatting of just 1 decimal place true across the board. So order of operation is something that we need to understand as we maybe get into, let's say that we wanted to see what percentage increase we had from 2013 to 2014, or maybe it's a percentage decrease depending on what the numbers are. But for this example, we'll just look at the numbers between Beef Project, or the numbers of the Beef Project group between 2013 and 2014. So let me just type in order of op here, expand my cell or my row to fit that in. So if I did, so to get that percentage increase, I would first have to subtract the 2014 numbers by the 2013 numbers, and then take that answer and divide it by the 2014 number to see what percentage increase or decrease, whatever the case may be, that was. So what that would look like is equals, and then if I did it this way, if I did B4 minus B2 and then divide by B4 and hit enter, well, that number is obviously not right, because first of all, we're looking for a percentage, and that would be that just would not be right at all. So what has happened here is, just like we learned in high school algebra, which if you're like me, you didn't exactly excel in that class, but what we have here is we have an order of operation issue. So what multiplication and division will happen first, and then addition and subtraction. So what's actually happening here is B3 is being divided by B4, and then we're subtracting B4 from that answer, or subtracting that answer from B4. Okay, so we want to do the B4 minus B3 first, and then divide that answer by B4. So what we have to do is we have to surround that order, that subtraction order, in parentheses, and then divide by B4. So with that change, I'll hit enter, and now we get what looks more like a percentage. Now it's showing in a decimal place. If we wanted to change that to a percentage, an easy way to do that is go up here to the ribbon and click on the Home tab, and then here in the number, I can do some auto apply of formatting here to make that a percentage. So we can see that now we know that we had an 8% increase from 2013 to 2014. And as I drag this across, we can see that we had a 0% increase in 2000 and or in the horse project group between those 2 years. We had a very large decrease there in 2000, or in the county leadership group, and then we had a smaller decrease there in our forestry group. So nice way that we can drag that across and get some percentages. So that one more thing that I want to show you here is averages. That may be something that we want to do very common, and I'm just going to put it in here. I'm actually going to insert a row so I can get some more space. So we're going to do average. There's actually a sum created for average, so or a formula created for average, so I'll just click enter, AV, and we can see as I start typing average, I get some code hinting or some hinting help here, and I can just click on that average, and then I will drag the span that I want to do. I want to see what the average was for these 3 years, the beef project group, close my parentheses and hit enter. And then I will click on here. I want to reduce that number of decimal places. Now I could do like I showed you before and go into Format Cells, or I could go back up here into my Home tab under my ribbon and take the decimal places down. Oh, sorry. Take them down a couple notches. Let's say I just want to do 1 decimal place. Okay, so I can drag that all the way across. And now we can see what our average is for those project meetings. So that'll do it for this video. We covered some very simple formulas: adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and then went over some order of operations, and we also covered dragging formulas across. And just so you know, you can drag formulas down as well if that situation presented itself. For example, if we wanted to have some totals here for the year, we could do equals sum, open parentheses, and drag this data set across like that, close the parentheses and hit enter, and now we could drag these numbers down so we could get totals for all 3 of those years. Now you'll see here you have a little green arrow in this upper right or upper left corner, and what that's pretty much saying, if I click on this error, it's saying formula omits adjacent cells. So what it's doing, since we only dragged some from cell B2 to E2, is saying, hey, there's a number out there that you didn't get. Well, that's our year number, and we don't want that. So that's just Excel's way of making sure we didn't accidentally forget to include some information in our formula. So that'll do it for this video. We'll have more Excel training coming soon.